Welcome in. It is the Sports Huddle on SEMO ESPN Radio, 1220 AM, 93.5 on the FM dial. And you can always find us online. We're at SEMOESPN.com. Eric Sean in our Yuengling Sports Huddle studios. Yuengling is the iconic American lager, America's oldest brewery, Yuengling. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, here is our EBOMD Huddle hotline number, 573-334-1220. 573-334-1220. The Huddle hotline powered by EBOMD. And if you don't have our free app yet, you can take us wherever you go. Just go to your app store, search for SEMO ESPN. It is a free download. It's got the Listen Live link, links to our contests and promotions, the latest breaking news, the latest radar weather forecast, and the link to our podcast page. It is free. It's the SEMO ESPN app. Welcome in. We will get to the latest flop for the St. Louis Cardinals, losing 2 of 3 to the horrendous Colorado Rockies. This is a team, the Rockies, that have won 6 series this year. 2 of the 6 have come against your St. Louis Cardinals, who did not lose a game in the standings because the Mets continue to be terrible. And they lose again last night. They were up 6-0. They gave up a 9-run inning to the Braves, so the Mets lose, and the Cardinals remain 4 back in the wild card race. So we'll get into that. But first, the big news that broke yesterday, and I'm sure it was coming for quite a while, and we're about to find out a little bit more on that information. But Tennessee Tech has announced it is leaving the Ohio Valley Conference and headed for the Southern Conference. So we thought we would dig a little deeper into that news. And with that, on our EBOMD Huddle hotline this morning, we've got the voice of Tennessee Tech Athletics. Dylan Vazano is on the EBOMD Huddle hotline. Dylan, thanks for the time. How are things?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. Things are a little bit wild after yesterday's news, I'll tell you that much. But overall, this time of year, getting into the start of college athletics, it's always a fun time.
So how many years now has it been for you being the voice of the Golden Eagles?
I have been here broadcasting at Tennessee Tech 12 years. So we're about to start year number 13 for Golden Eagle football.
All right, and they're the preseason faves, according to the preseason voting. We'll certainly talk more Tennessee Tech football, what's going on at Tucker Stadium. For those who do not know, massive renovations are coming. So it won't be this radio guy in the future, but whoever the next radio guy is will not have to walk up exactly 100 steps to get to the broadcast booth at Tucker Stadium. So, Dylan, when did you start to hear rumblings that this could happen, and then when did you know for sure, hey, we're going to the Southern Conference?
I think when a lot of the changes in the Ohio Valley Conference started to happen, however many years back that was, when Jacksonville State and Eastern Kentucky left the league, and then you had Austin Peay and Murray State. I think as a lot of schools in the conference kind of started to, hey, is this the right fit? Are we going to look elsewhere? So I think from that regard, there was always maybe rumors or, like you said, rumblings and things of that nature. But for this to happen, when it happened, it caught me off guard. It actually felt like it caught off guard a lot of people at Tennessee Tech. Obviously, the upper administration, I'm sure, was well in the loop, and of course, making this happen. The new athletic director, Casey Fox, the president of the school, Dr. Phil Oldham, and those people, of course, heavily involved. But I think from a staff perspective, we received an email yesterday of a mandatory meeting at 1:45, and there was a lot of, hey, what's this about? What do we have going on? We're all meeting as a staff. That kind of seems like a unique situation. So I think although there might have been some rumors from years past, the actual here and now of it certainly came as a surprise to, I think, a lot of people to have it happen and have it happen this quickly.
Dylan Visano is the voice of Tennessee Tech Athletics. He joins us on the EBOMD Huddle Hotline, coming on the heels of the major announcement that Tennessee Tech is headed to the Southern Conference. What do you think is the primary driving force here, Dylan? Is it money? Is it the footprint of the Southern Conference? As I look, just the teams that play football in the Southern Conference, because I know a lot of our listeners are not that familiar with the Southern Conference: Chattanooga, East Tennessee State, Furman, Mercer, Samford, former OVC member in Birmingham, the Citadel, VMI, Western Carolina, and Wofford. Those are the football schools, and it varies for different sports. So, you can go to, each different sport on the Southern Conference website, which I did, to see, okay, who plays baseball, who plays women's basketball, how about men's basketball. When we saw Murray State jump ship and go to the Missouri Valley Conference, we knew it was fueled by men's basketball. They're probably never going to compete in football, not in that conference. Do you think it was driven by any one particular sport or just an all-sport decision?
I don't think necessarily one particular sport. And again, the higher-ups involved in the decision-making, they might have more of a better grasp on exactly why. But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, the footprint of the schools in the Southern Conference. I mean, you think from a travel perspective, a lot of the schools that you just named, Chattanooga, hour and a half away from Cookeville. You have East Tennessee State over in Johnson City. That's not too far. Birmingham, where Samford is. Western Carolina. Like, a lot of the schools are relatively close. And I think the way that the Ohio Valley Conference, look, fantastic conference, grateful for Tennessee Tech, I know, to be a part of that for so many years. They treated the Golden Eagles with such class and took care of them over the years. But as the conference started to shift and with some of the schools leaving and jumping ship and some of the new schools coming in, it felt more like maybe turning into more of a Midwest conference in terms of the geographic location of it, whereas in Tennessee, and having been here the last 12 years, and the pride that there is for having some battles with other schools that are having the Southern geography, I think that a lot of the fans really crave that, really wanted to have some of those rivalries with schools from Tennessee, with schools from Alabama, with schools from North and South Carolina. And I think that was a driving force, because if you look at the fan reaction of this, I mean, there's, a difference from people in the department and coaches and administration. But from the fan perspective, everything you've seen on social media, everything you've seen and heard here around Cookeville is just overwhelmingly positive for this move. So I think that there's a lot of excitement because of the footprint of where a lot of these schools are located in the Southern Conference.
Dylan Visano is the voice of Tennessee Tech Athletics. He's with us this morning on the EBOMD Huddle Hotline in our Yingling Sports Huddle studios. So I broke out the MapQuest app yesterday, Dylan, and I started plugging in all of these schools for the Southern Conference in Cookeville, Tennessee, which is, I'm going to say, a little over 5 hours from Cape Girardeau. For Tennessee Tech, the longest trip, it appears, is Charleston, South Carolina. That's the Citadel, 473 miles. That's only 7 hours by bus. That's the longest trip that Tennessee Tech is going to have. So a lot of these schools are probably going to be closer to Cookeville, right?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was mentioned in the meeting we had as a department yesterday. A lot of the travel will certainly benefit Tennessee Tech. And you think a lot of it, it's easy to think, okay, the teams travel less and what costs associated with that and budgets and things of that nature. But you start to think, again, for the fans' perspective, hey, well, if these trips are a lot shorter, they're more willing to travel to these games, and you can get that presence and that excitement and build back your fan base up. And so I think that the travel associated, as a lot of the movement in the OVC started to happen, and you get a Western Illinois with Macomb and how far that is from Cookeville, and Little Rock coming into the mix. Again, these are great schools, and they've helped out the OVC and things of that nature, but the costs associated, the fan engagement, and just the overall ease of that travel, I'm sure we're heavily weighed into making this decision.
Okay, so Western Illinois, SIU, Edwardsville, Arkansas, Little Rock, are those the furthest trips? How long are those trips from Cookeville?
Yeah, those certainly are the furthest trips. You're looking to get to Little Rock about 6, 7, 8 hours on a bus up to Macomb. I know that a lot of the teams, I know the football team last year was able to fly up there, so that, more cost there, but otherwise that is about a 9 to 10 hour trip up to Macomb. SIU, Edwardsville, similar 6, 7 hours. And again, as you mentioned with the Citadel down in Charleston, South Carolina, if that's the furthest trip, okay, you make one of those. But when you started with the changes in the OVC, having to make multiple trips a year, multiple sports making these trips, not a lot of fans willing or able to make those long trips, you started to see, okay, maybe a change is needed, maybe we can have a change. And again, this is somewhat speculation because I'm not involved in that decision-making, but you can sort of connect the dots and see from a travel perspective why this does make a lot of sense.
All right, so we're not going to ask your opinion on it because you've still got another year in the OVC. I'm sure you have interviewed Beth DeBusch, the commissioner of the OVC. I have, several times during games. Do you think it's a leadership issue? What do you hear from people that are a lot closer to the situation? First of all, is it a leadership issue in some people's minds? And secondly, what is their view of the OVC? Is it viewed as a sinking ship at this point?
I think that from a Tennessee Tech perspective and from a Cookeville perspective, when a lot of those teams that we had built here at Tennessee Tech rivalry with over the years, your Austin Peays, your Murray States, even your Jacksonville States of the world, when they started to leave, the OVC, of course, had to pivot. And the pivots that they made, commend them. They turned to some schools that maybe a lot of people didn't know because they weren't Division I schools in Lindenwood and Southern Indiana, who I do think are two schools that are already showing that they can make an impact in this league. Lindenwood had a lot of success as a department last year, the financial resources, the facilities that they have. So while I think that the pivots they've made have made sense and they've done what they've needed to do, and who knows, you could look into the future and say, okay, those were real nice moves for them. Again, a lot of the fans, it was challenging. You go from an Austin Peay where there's this built-in rivalry and years, a lot of great games and a lot of different sports, to all of a sudden, I don't know what is this school in Missouri, Lindenwood? We're unsure. Again, a fan perspective, or I haven't heard of a Southern Indiana, a Western Illinois. So I think that from a Tennessee Tech and here Cookeville perspective, and especially from the fans, there was just kind of losing interest in some of these games. And I think as you see around all of college athletics, that makes sense when you start to get rid of these traditional rivals, of these traditional games that fans are accustomed to. There is sort of an outcry for change, and I think that the people associated with Tennessee Tech understood that, and realized, hey, like, we want to do right, obviously financially, but by the fans and the donors and the people associated with. And immediately, a lot of the buzz yesterday was, wow, we get to play Chattanooga. That's a rivalry from years back. East Tennessee State, you mentioned Stanford used to be in the OVC. All of a sudden, there's a lot more excitement because of that. So I think more than what mistakes were made potentially by the OVC, I think it was just like, hey, these schools left. Fans want to have the chance to have rivalries and games that they are aware of more. And so I think that it was much more those being a factor versus things that maybe went wrong within the conference.
Dylan Visano is the voice of Tennessee Tech Athletics, and he's our guest this morning on the EBO-MD Huddle Hotline on the heels of the announcement Tennessee Tech is bolting the OVC and headed to the SoCon. When you look at the teams that left, I know in Eastern Kentucky and, highlighting Jacksonville State, there was an exit fee that was tagged with, I know for sure Jacksonville State, it was like $1 million, and they had agreed to that in previous years. What's your knowledge? Is there an exit fee in this scenario for Tech, or can they just slide out?
That is something you talk about when you fees and dollars and cents, way above my pay grade. I am kind of unaware. Again, we're trying to kind of put the pieces together in this, because although there were rumors the last few years, the decision and having it come as quick as it did all of a sudden was kind of a surprise to a lot of people, like I mentioned earlier. So, to be honest, I'm unaware of what that would mean in terms of an exit fee. Obviously, I know you referenced it earlier. There will be one more year of Tennessee Tech in the Ohio Valley Conference before going over to the Southern Conference. So, yeah, I guess that will probably be more knowledge as it goes on, and I'll try to learn right there with you on it.
So some of these teams in the Southern Conference, Dylan, let's just use Chattanooga as an example. How often does Tech play Chattanooga in the other sports? I would think that you probably meet them. I know week 2, you host them in football at Tucker Stadium. Your first 3 football games are at home. So Chattanooga is already on the football schedule. Are there teams in the SoCon that throughout Tennessee Tech Athletics you're already playing in non-conference action?
Yeah, you're spot on with that. Most of the schools Tennessee Tech does play often. You mentioned Chattanooga. That is across the board. I'm fortunate enough to broadcast kind of all the sports at Tennessee Tech, whether it's on the radio or ESPN+. There's a soccer match coming up in early September against Chattanooga. You see it with men's and women's basketball playing them. East Tennessee State routinely in a lot of the sports that aren't as big as a football or a basketball. You see softball will play East Tennessee State a lot. You'll see soccer involved with them. Samford having been in the OVC, and really as close as Birmingham is, when these coaches are filling out their non-conference schedules, a lot of times with the proximity, you'll see Southern Conference schools. So I think, again, it just adds to it making a lot of sense, the familiarity with it all. It was an easy transition, should be an easy transition going into next year.
Dylan Visano is the voice of Tennessee Tech Athletics. He's our guest this morning in the Yuengling Sports Huddle studios on the EBO-MD Huddle Hotline. Dylan, Tennessee Tech, the preseason favorite, pretty close vote in terms of, the coaches and communication directors. Tennessee Tech, 5 first-place votes, UT Martin 2, SEMO 2. So it was 57 points for Tech. 1 more than Martin in the preseason poll, 4 more than SEMO in the preseason poll, and then there's a big drop-off down to Lindenwood, who was picked to finish 4th. First time since 1978, and people got to keep in mind, Tennessee Tech has been a member of the OVC since 1949. So the first time Tech has been the preseason favorite since 1978. How much excitement is there for Tech football, who shared the OVC title last year?
There's a lot of excitement, without a doubt. Head coach Bobby Wilder, in his second season at the helm, he has discussed the fact with the preseason ranking being where it is. Of course, there is excitement. He says preseason is for recognition and postseason is for achievement. And there is, of course, the awareness that, hey, this is just a preseason ranking. But when you say something like 1978, that will get your attention. And it's not just being kind of brushed under the rug, like, okay, we need to go out and perform. No, it's being accepted. It's being somewhat celebrated in terms of, hey, this is exciting. This is kind of, if you look at the history of Tennessee Tech football over the years, in the recent history, I mean, last year, the share of the title, but just a winning record at 7-5, that hadn't been done since 2011. And so you're talking over a decade. And so to have that sort of acknowledgement and distinction as a preseason number one, it's hard not to be excited about it. You mentioned with Tucker Stadium and some of the renovations and things of that nature. Now the news with the Southern Conference. It is a fun time to be a Golden Eagle right now, and you can feel it. Cookeville, not that big of a town, that you can feel the energy and excitement. I'm going into my football season number 13. And there is, without a doubt, a different look and feel this year as opposed to any of the years past that I've been here.
So I don't know where we were, but we were on a bus going somewhere. Yes, last year when you guys were playing Middle Tennessee State in football, I think they had to convert 1 or 2 fourth downs late. I was listening to the broadcast. I mean, you guys had Middle Tennessee State beaten and would have gotten a win over an FBS school. Is that when you knew, hey, this Bobby Wilder guy may have something going here, despite the fact that you ended up losing in the closing minute?
Yeah, I think that was it, because Tennessee Tech, as most schools in the OVC and across FCS football, has no success against FBS teams. So when you're going to Middle, and you knew in terms of an FBS team, Middle Tennessee is kind of down, but it's still that distinction, FCS versus FBS. And then you're seeing the game play out, and you're fortunate enough to call the game, and things are transpiring, and you're like, okay, kind of like, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is a little bit different for Golden Eagle football. And yeah, like you said, it was a 4th and 5 with about 35 seconds left or so. And, of course, had Tech stop them, that's a win over Middle, but they didn't. Middle ends up scoring a touchdown, but you come that close in game number 1 on the road, FBS. That was when that turned a lot of people's attention. We knew going into the year that things kind of felt different with Bobby Wilder, but for the community at large, the fan base at large, from that point on, it really had that different look and feel, and, of course, played out that way.
Did your starting quarterback get hurt in that game? Do I remember that right?
Yes. Dylan Leibel got hurt in the first quarter of that game, and so they went to the backup, Jordan Potts, and just seeing him bring the team back. He had kind of an up-and-down year after that. Dylan Leibel came back, got his starting job back, but having the backup quarterback, I think, also spoke to the ability of the coach and the head coaching or the coaching staff at large to be able to do that as a backup. Yeah, you're all over it. It was the backup.
Okay, you've got a new starting quarterback this year, if he indeed is going to be the starter. Transfer from Eastern Washington, who put up pretty good numbers last year, and I don't know, it was 74.5% completion percentage last year. Is that the starting quarterback, and how good do you think this guy is going to be?
Yeah, Kakoa Vesperis the Eastern Washington transfer. Right
I was going to let you pronounce that name.
Hey, let me say, that was a veteran play-by-play move right there, having me do it. Well done, Eric. But yeah, Kekoa Vesperis, he is the Eastern Washington transfer. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned the completion percentage that led FCS football, or is right at the top. He looks like the real deal. Obviously, everybody looks good in practice and training camp and fall camp and things of that nature. But the way the ball comes off his hand, the spiral, the touch, the feel, the knowledge of the game, and a lot of times I think you can maybe relate or attest to this. A lot of times people are wowed when you get like a Power 4 transfer or an FBS transfer to come down to this level with the knowledge and thinking like, oh, well, if they had any sort of success at an SEC or a Big Ten or even just a backup but got the opportunity, surely it will translate to this level. But what's cool about this situation is that Kekoa had success at Eastern Washington, which has been a good FCS program. So a lot of times you can see it translate even more when you get an FCS to an FCS, because they kind of understand this level of football, what it takes to succeed, and many times you'll see the transition easier and more successful. There's a lot of excitement about him. Everyone trying to make sure they pronounce his name right, trying to make sure that they know who he is, but going into the year, no reason to think that he won't have a big season. And when you got the quarterback and you have the coach, a lot of times that translates to winning football.
Dylan Visano is the voice of Tennessee Tech Golden Eagle Athletics. He joins us on the EBOMD Huddle Hotline this morning. Interesting that he's coming from Eastern Washington. SEMO has a history with Eastern Washington. In 2010, when SEMO won its first OVC football championship, that's where they played in the playoffs in Cheney on the Red Inferno turf. They were down 7 going into the fourth quarter. I think they ended up losing by 3 touchdowns. You know, they had like 10-foot snow drifts in the end zone, but lost to Eastern Washington. But I bring that up because that year, SEMO had the first place showdown, their final regular season game at Jacksonville State, and the Redhawks had a late lead, and Jacksonville State converted like a 4th and 20. And they were coming down the field, and they threw a pass into the right corner of the end zone with just seconds left in the game. SEMO's DB slipped and fell, and the wide receiver for Jacksonville State caught the ball, and it looked like, okay, they are going to win the OVC championship. Heartbreaking loss. And then the following week, SEMO did not have a game. We're at the Show Me Center calling a basketball game, but we've got the Tennessee Tech versus Jacksonville State football game, OVC Sports TV back in those days. We had that up, and I think Jacksonville State had a 3-touchdown lead against Watson Brown's Golden Eagles, and I'll be darned if Tech didn't rally and beat Jacksonville State and knock them out of the hunt. Is that the last OVC football title? Didn't they share the title that year, or 2010 under Watson Brown? Did they get a share of it that year?
It was 2011, so the next year a share, and Tech had the one or the tiebreaker to get the playoff berth. But in 2010, you are spot on. A great memory. Obviously, I wasn't there yet, but when I came to Tennessee Tech for the 2013 season, obviously only 3 years removed, people are still talking about this game because legend has it, and my facts might not be exactly spot on here. I believe it was a backup quarterback. I think his name was Cass Barnes, and Tennessee Tech, like you said, down 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Apparently, Jacksonville State had the shirts, the OVC championship shirts already in the locker room. That's what everyone was saying, ready. And here comes a backup quarterback for Tennessee Tech. And, the way that it was playing out, all right, this is going to be it, because Tech wasn't having a great year, and they were just playing out the final quarter. Came back, won, and that's a game that I heard so much about before I even actually called my first football game. And then still to this day, when you get around on road trips or you just get around with people who are associated with Tennessee Tech football and you start to go over the list of your favorite games of all time, there's no one who doesn't have that game. If it's not number one, it's top three. So, yeah, that game, obviously means a lot for SEMO. It means a lot for a different reason for Tennessee Tech. There's so much pride, the fact that Jacksonville State could not have those shirts, could not wear those shirts, and kind of spoiled what was supposed to be their party.
God, they were the cockiest football program, and I understand, pun intended, they're the Gamecocks. But still, so they took that momentum and they won it the next year. That's what it was. So, yeah, I just remember having it pulled up on the laptop, trying to broadcast a basketball game and keep one eye. Wait a minute. They're coming back in this game. This thing may not be over. That's fantastic. All right.
Amazing.
As we look at the way that football shakes out, we talked about the preseason poll, Dylan, and it's Dylan Vazano, the voice of Tennessee Tech Golden Eagle Athletics. You look at the way the poll shakes out, Tech 1, UT Martin 2, SEMO 3. Tennessee Tech gets both of those games at Tucker Stadium. Big advantage.
Huge, yeah. I mean, any time that you get to play at home, and especially the way that Tucker Stadium is right now, the fact that they don't have, or they're building the west side of the stadium up, the renovation is supposed to be completed for the start of next football season. So what we found last year is the teams that had to come here, I don't think there's a real locker room situation, and I think they had to bring in like portable showers maybe to make sure that everyone could shower. And it is what it is when you have a renovation and you're going through what you're going through with all the construction. But it kind of almost feels home field advantage always, especially in football, it seems like that's the case, but it feels like a little bit maybe more of an advantage, the fact that the way that everything is set up with the construction. So getting both SEMO and Martin at home, it's huge. I don't think you can understate it. It's a big thing for the Golden Eagles.
And SEMO is will be doing similar construction, and we've already had the athletic director, Brady Barkey, on this show and said while they're in the process of doing all those renovations, they will not have lights, so they'll have to adjust the start times. And we see that is the case at Tucker Stadium. Home games are starting at noon because of the construction and no lights.
Yeah, they're starting at noon. They were at 1:30 last year, and so it would start to get a little bit later, especially toward the fall, and this might be a problem. We should bump it up. So having it at noon, especially you mentioned those first three games are all at home, and you're talking August 30th and then the two straight beginning of September, 12 o'clock here in Tennessee. It's going to be pretty hot. That might be somewhat of an advantage as well. But yeah, all of the start times moved up because no lights. They'll be involved next year. And as far as all the years I've been here, the games are always at night until you get to late October and the weather turns. But that again, won't be the case this year.
So tell us what they're doing at Tucker Stadium with this whole renovation project. And please tell me there are no more spiral metal staircases to drag your broadcast equipment up. I'm sure I saw the renderings. It's elevator time, baby.
Hey, and the funny thing is as they're doing the construction. And it'll be such a unique look because every football game at Tucker Stadium this year, I feel like you'll be able to see more and more of the construction getting done. But the first thing that they did, you already see the elevators going up. They've built the elevator shaft, and they built where it'll be, and everyone is so quick to point that out. As you said, what was it, 100 steps up to the press box? Was that the official count?
If you count the stairs in the metal circular stairwell, it was 100 steps to get up to the top of that freaking thing.
I think you can relate to this, too. I think that was the toughest part, was the spiral staircase, because you already made it all the way up the mountain, and you're lugging all your equipment, and it's step by step by step, and it takes forever, and you're finally at the top, and all right, now we're on Easy Street, and then you see this spiral staircase that can't fit like anyone to go up it, and you have that equipment.
Brutal.
It was brutal, exactly. Like, so the fact that not going to have to do that for too much longer. It's supposed to, be done. The plan is for the start of next year. It's just, state of the art. You have your press box and your radio booths and your TV booths, but the luxury suites as well will be a part of it. It just should have an awesome look and feel, and it's fitting that it's happening now, and you just the excitement with the, like we said earlier, with the Southern Conference, the preseason #1, a share of the title last year. It's starting to get to just unique and almost, you can say, uncharted waters, but in such a positive way for Tennessee Tech and specifically Golden Eagle football.
So when looking at the renderings, it looks like where the press box was, that's what they tore down. Where are you broadcasting from? Where is opposing radio? Because we've got to go there later in the season. Let's see. It's going to be October 25th. How's that set up? And it was the side where the old press box was that they tore down, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the press box, that was torn down, went down last year. So they've moved everyone over to the opposite side. It was the president's box, which was essentially a carbon copy of the press box, but on that side. It has a little bit of a different look and feel because it wasn't operational for radio booths and actual working press box, but it is similar to what you're accustomed to. There's actually, I think, more space. You're not in an actual room, but there's more space and kind of no one around on the second floor. I'm over down on the first floor, kind of right next to where the operation part of it is. They got everybody crammed in there on that first floor. And the one thing that does play out, and we'll see what October 25th in the weather, is the sun is bearing right down on you. And sometimes, especially, which is why I'm fortunate they moved it up from 1:30 to noon, because in the fourth quarter of each game last year, and the sun, especially later in the season, is starting to go down a little bit, it is just right in your eye. And the heat, too, from it, forget the visibility. You're just getting baked in there with how hot it is. But, yeah, so that's kind of the setup. Now you got to move everybody over to the other way, but making it work, and then, looking forward to seeing you on October 25th.
They got a metal staircase on that side?
No, they got a metal staircase on that side. You won't get to avoid that.
Of course they do. So, and it's Dylan Visano, the voice of Tennessee Tech Athletics, our guest on the EBOMD Huddle Hotline. Not the only renovation project for Tennessee Tech Athletics. Baseball has installed artificial turf. Matt Braga made his triumphant return for Tennessee Tech baseball. He built them into a power in the Midwest. They had the greatest OVC baseball team of all time. I don't know, was that the 17 or the 18 team?
18, yeah.
18, okay. The greatest OVC baseball team of all time, and Matt Braga is back after a short stint at Rice. University. So they have renovated baseball with the new turf. We know what they're doing with football. Are there other renovations going on here, athletic upgrades?
You mentioned with the turf, football, baseball and softball as well. There is still talks, and they're trying to make everything happen for a football operations center, because as everyone knows or maybe doesn't know, you think of a football stadium, and there's offices and things of that nature, but that's, as certain coaches will like to say, or administration, kind of like the home away from home, where you want that operations center where you are kind of living out of for the rest of the year outside of when the games are being played. So there is talks of that, and they're trying to raise the money and make everything happen to get the football operations center up and running. Baseball stadium is looking great. They're always looking to add on and make adjustments to that, is what I've been told. The Eblin Center, where basketball is, I think that's, with all the changes there, is kind of complete for now. I don't think there's any plans there, but I think the biggest is just making sure football gets to the level of maybe some of the other facilities around here.
Well, the Eblin Center has seen significant upgrades. All of those black chairbacks. It's the biggest video board in the OVC as far as basketball goes. And I would think, Dylan, this is a good time for the Southern Conference to look at Tennessee Tech and send them an invite, because obviously football just shared an OVC championship. 2 years ago, it was SEMO and Tech in the OVC tournament championship basketball game. And Tennessee Tech women's basketball has won 1 million championships. They're coming off a regular season title, a tournament title, a trip to the NCAA tournament. Baseball returned to the upper part of the standings under Matt Braga. I'm sure there are other athletic programs there that I'm not following that are peaking right now, but it seems like this is a peak time for the Southern Conference to invite Tennessee Tech.
Yeah, it's kind of like a strike when the iron's hot situation. If you just said it all, you have your revenue-generating sports when all of them are doing well or in the hunt. The success of football last year, the preseason number one, hopefully successful season this year. Women's basketball is in quite the run. The championship last year, and then 2 years ago, a championship and a trip to the NCAA tournament. Baseball with the proven pedigree of the coach in Matt Braga. Soccer's won 3 straight OVC regular season titles. So if you look at the Southern Conference from their perspective, you see that success. You see some of the facilities, specifically the Eblin Center, because it is a nice facility and it has a lot to offer. It makes sense. And then the footprint and getting another school from Tennessee, and it just kind of, from their perspective, and of course can't speak to them, but I think kind of the way you were thinking, I think similar. You have this successful programs, you have some of the facilities, you have the geographic location. Why not extend an invite? And I know that they are probably excited, and certainly Tennessee Tech is.
Man, I bet you're doing all your research now. The Southern Conference. Okay, who is the football champion? I'm looking. Mercer won it last year, followed by Western Carolina, Chattanooga, and East Tennessee State. You go to various different sports and see where they kind of stack up as you're getting ready to join. Did you know a lot about the Southern Conference before this?
Yeah, I think we did, just because of the familiarity with playing them in a lot of sports. And so when you start to do your research before a game, all right, who's had success, who's the defending champ, and who secured some of the berths for the NCAA tournament and things like that, because Tennessee Tech just plays them so often in the non-conference, and the location of them, especially with Chattanooga, you hear a lot about what they're doing. So I think that there was somewhat knowledge going into it. But, yeah, there's going to be a lot of prep needing to do, and then you got the final year of the OVC, and to make sure you're all on top of that, but keeping an eye on what's going on in the Southern Conference is a lot of work. But as you know, it's all fun, it's all exciting, and I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a fun athletic season. It will be a little kind of awkward, though, I would think, a little bit for Tennessee Tech now because, it'll be the last, anytime you're going on the road, it's going to be the last visit in there unless they sign some sort of a non-conference agreement to play. I never thought I would see SEMO men's basketball playing a money game at Murray State, but that's what we had this past year. But I would think it would be a little bit awkward, kind of a lame duck scenario here for Tennessee Tech this year. I hope they don't make some sort of a mandate. I've seen it in other conferences. I'm trying to think, who was it? Sam Houston State. Somebody announced they were leaving, and then all of a sudden the conference made this announcement. They're ineligible to play for the conference title or to get the league's automatic bid. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think that does ring a bell, and actually Sam Houston State, that does sound familiar.
Them or James Madison, one of those teams.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, you hear – you used to not hear about any of this because there wasn't any movement. People didn't, or schools didn't move conferences and change. But now, with every level of college athletics, there's all sorts of interesting, what's the conference going to do and this and that. I mean, yeah, you hope it's not like that, but it is going to be unique, and it is going to be, it's a bittersweet sort of situation in terms of, you mentioned Tennessee Tech has been in the OVC for dating back to the 40s, and they've treated the relationship has always been a strong and positive one as far as I know, and the idea that, these will be the last trip to this school, or at least the last trip as members of the same conference. And so there is that uniqueness to it, and there is that, you want to go out on top, but it's also kind of, there's relationships built and people that you see on a routine basis. I mean, it's different from coaches versus myself as a broadcaster, where you're not competing against the other broadcaster, things of that nature. So it is going to be unique. It is going to be, it's fun to celebrate it, but it's also that bittersweet part of it where you're not going to see a lot of good people on a routine basis that you become accustomed to.
So with how NIL has gone now, totally different landscape in college athletics, I would think if everyone's excited about this move to the SoCon, the renovation for the football program, I've got to think that this can only help with the NIL funds. And how is Tennessee Tech's NIL as far as you know?
Yeah, as far as I know, that you hear the word collective, and that they've started or have a collective going. I don't know the actual ins and outs,
sure,
and dollars and cents and things of that nature, but that is something that you have to tip your cap. And I think a lot of the reason for optimism and success of Tennessee Tech football is with the head coach Bobby Wilder. He completely understood the assignment of what college athletics and specifically college football is in this era with NIL. And I think that you've seen certain coaches in certain sports with this transition not wanting to fully embrace it, and especially at this level, because at the higher levels, the SEC, the Big Ten, and the amount of money that they're able to generate and the revenue, which is off the charts, I think that it's a little easier at this level to maybe feel bad for yourself, like, oh, we're losing our talent because they're going to get paid at a Power 4 school. But if you understand, hey, this is just the reality, and it's either you get on the boat or the boat leaves you behind, and he has completely done that, and the rest of the department has followed suit and kind of given him the ability and a lot of the programs at Tennessee Tech to keep up with it. So I think that making this move will only further that, but I think it was also the idea that going into it, this is how it needs to be. We're embracing this. We want it. We need NIL. We have a collective, and it's kind of taken off from there.
Dylan Vazano, the voice of Tennessee Tech Golden Eagle Athletics. Thanks so much for giving us so much of your time, man. I think we were pretty thorough in breaking this thing down. Tennessee Tech hosting Cumberland College on their college, not university, right? Or is it Cumberland University?
I think it's Cumberland University.
Okay.
They're right down the road from 40 minutes away from Cookeville.
That'll be August 30th. Their home opener, their first 3 games are at home. SEMO visits Cookeville for the final time, maybe ever, October 25th, and that should be a good game. Both teams should be in the hunt still on October 25th. Dylan, thank you so much for your time. Great to catch up, and we'll be talking to you down the line, and we'll be seeing you on October 25th and revisiting for the final time the metal spiral staircase.
Aaron, man, it's been great catching up with you. Yeah, I'll make sure to meet you at the spiral staircase and help you from there. But awesome time. Thank you, and looking forward to seeing you down the road.
All right. Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate it. Dylan Vazano, our guest on the EBOMD Huddle Hotline. So, you heard the news yesterday about Tennessee Tech leaving. We hope we got you all of the info on that. Headed to the Southern Conference. Sports Huddle coming right back on SEMO ESPN. Sports Huddle, SEMO ESPN, 1220 AM, 93.5 FM, and online at SEMOESPN.com. Eric Shawn in the Yuengling Sports Huddle Studios. Yuengling, the iconic American lager, America's oldest brewery. Yuengling, our thanks to Dylan Vazano for joining us, the longtime voice of Tennessee Tech Athletics. I think we covered everything in terms of Tennessee Tech bailing on the OVC. So what is the future now for the Ohio Valley Conference? I think that is going to be very interesting. And we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Mike Rennick will be back in studio. Cardinals are idle today. Man, the old saying about licking your wounds, they've got a lot of wounds to lick after just gagging the game yesterday against the sad sack Colorado Rockies. I mean, that is brutal in terms of losing 2 of 3. Rockies have won 6 series this year, 2 of them against the Cardinals. And if you go back to the end of June, Cardinals have played 7 series against teams with losing records. 7. They're 1-6. Yet they beat the Dodgers 2 of 3, Cubs 2 out of 3. How do you figure it out? In those last 7 series against teams with losing records, where they were 1-6 in the series, they went 6-15 against those teams, 9 games under 500 against sub-500 competition. Can't figure it out. Off day today, Aaron Judge and the Yankees are coming to Busch tomorrow night for a 3-game series. Pitching matchups, well, just for the Cardinals, Andre Palante, Sonny Gray Saturday, and then Miles Michaelis to wrap it up on an afternoon game on Sunday. All right, say hello to the radiant and ravishing Dawn Shawn. Day off today. She's fired up. Mike Rennick back tomorrow. Clinton and Friends coming up next. Hope you enjoy your Thursday, everybody.